Good morning from the beautiful new Castle Motorsports Park in Spiceland, Indiana. We're back for racing action here today on this beautiful Saturday morning on what's been pretty cool weather so far here this morning. As always, my name is Caleb Vieska. Alongside me here in the booth is Emery Lida hopping in here this weekend. Simon Sykes is going to bring us some intel all weekend long trackside here, but already, I mean, we saw qualifying all day yesterday, and we had a pretty good showing from there, very action-packed, and then today we finally get to go racing here at the King of the Castle, the second round of the Stars Championship Series, and first out on track, your KA100 Masters. But Emery, first time we're hearing from you this weekend, and in quite some time. How have you been, and what are you looking forward to this weekend?
Yeah, it's good to be back, Caleb. I mean, obviously been a lot more behind the scenes this year, and certainly doing our Grid Talk episodes during the week. So it's been good to be back in Newcastle as well. I mean, last year at this particular race I was racing, so I haven't worked at King of the Castle race in a couple of years, but I mean, this track produces some excellent racing. We have over 280 pre-entries this week and a few more at the track as well, and I think it is set up for an exciting Saturday of heat racing. We saw yesterday some close qualifying battles, some really stacked fields throughout the KA classes and the pro classes that we got into later on in the day. And this format, of course, 2 heats, a pre-final, and heading into the final, offers a lot of chances at this very overtaking heavy track to get position. So I think it's going to be an exciting day, and I'm excited to see how this all plays out.
Yeah, and then especially, right, you're talking about overtaking opportunities, and this class, especially the KA100 Masters and in the KA Senior, across all KA classes, I really should say, it's a very draft-dependent class because of how long the main straightaway is here at Newcastle Motorsports Park with the Stars Championship layout here this weekend. After the session comes into the pits, we'll pull up that track graphic for you guys right after the KA100 Masters come into the pits, but we'll look and break down everything because a guy like Emery Lida here next to me has raced this track, and you can provide some great intel for us on what it's like to go around a place like this. But let's run you down your KA100 Masters field. 25 drivers total here. James Brancotti and Ryan Kasner, two of the drivers out there on the track now. Anthony Stifler, Paul Montopoli, Austin Queen, Chris Horn, Jacob Neary, Andy Kutcher, Tom Gershner, Chris Kutcher, Tyler Prestel, Clay Settles returns to the Star Championship Series for the first time here this year. Peter Cook racing here this weekend as well as Brent Estes. John Banano, the reigning champ, returns here this weekend. Marciano Santos, Ken Simonellic, and Kevin Simonellic, the two brothers here this weekend. But they're not the only two here. We got Scott Carapalati and Kim Carapalati here as well. Ran Lee, Joe Lapke, Steven Simpson, David Goldman, your round one winner, David Galawina, as well as others, and 25 drivers total, so it's pretty good to see this large Masters class here this weekend, Emery.
Yeah, absolutely, Caleb. And I think a couple of the guys that you mentioned late there, David Goldman as well as David Galawina, I expect both of them to figure into the equation here. Galawina is a guy with a lot of laps around Newcastle. Newcastle local, has been driving a mixture of KA Masters and KA Senior, dating all the way back to the inception of the KA engine. And then on the other side of things, David Goldman, your round one winner, looked really good in Charlotte. So I expect this to be an interesting class. Already John Banano, the reigning Stars champion in KA Masters, off to a great start, upwards of half a second clear of James Brancotti for the Ryan Perry Motorsports machine, and I really do think that we're able to see a lot of the pace differential in KA Masters. I mean, this is a field that always has a lot of spread, but we're really kind of seeing the cream rise to the top here. As you can see, Banano off to a really good start in the session.
Yeah, pretty good session so far. And I mean, Emery, a couple of questions that I have for you here this morning. This track, I mean, whenever we're talking about earlier this morning, right, we're talking about the track evolution and how the track will change as the day progresses. It's a very, very cool morning here today. Temperatures, I believe, 56 degrees outside, just a little bit overcast so far as the sun continues to rise. I mean, it's only 7:34 this morning so far, so still a very cool racetrack. And how does the track progress? When does the track start to come to life, and when does the grip start to come in?
Yeah, so this Newcastle track is interesting in the sense that in the mornings, the first couple of sessions, there's oftentimes dew and a little bit of moisture on the track just from the grass area. And I think that in this case, with a colder morning with cooler temperatures as well, you're going to see a lot slower times in the first couple of warm-ups. I would expect in Masters, they'll probably get down to a high 114, maybe low 115 by the end of the session. That's about a second and a half off of what we saw in qualifying. And so as the sessions go on, as we get closer to KA Junior and KA Senior, I think we're going to see the times get closer and more representative of what we saw in qualifying. But it does take a few sessions for this track to get back to usual. I think once it gets back, it's going to be really quick. But for the first few sessions, in particular this Master, the first session out on track at 7:30 in the morning, it's probably going to be pretty slick.
Yeah, correct. So lap times right now are 1:16.460, and that's for John Banano, the reigning champion in his comp kart, who's lapping here quicker than the rest of the field, about 4/10 quicker than the rest of the field. There he is, John Banano with the number 1 plate. I mean, he had a struggle, and there you see him drop a tire there in the dirt, and that's another point that we should really talk about here, right? Every time a driver in whatever corner, as one driver goes around there in between the 290s, in between turns 15 and 16, so they're able to get back going here. But for John Banano, I mean, we saw him drop a tire, and that's been one of the big talking points yesterday whenever we were walking the paddock, right? A lot of drivers saying that, their rolling lap times were really, really quick. But by the time they got to the last couple of corners and somebody dropped a tire, especially in that corner where John Banano was in, the likes of Nicholas Terlecki doing that same, making the same mistake, they lost a lot of time. It was up to 4/10 the amount of time that they lost. So that's definitely something to look out for here across all races, because every time a driver drops a tire there, a lot of dirt moves onto the racetrack.
Yeah, it's something that I think is really cool about this track. With the way they run in reverse, there's not a lot of runoff on the exit of most corners, and so again, like you mentioned, one mistake can be 3 to 4/10, and it just throws you out of rhythm at a track that's this long with this many heavy braking zones. I think Terlecki was a good example of that in qualifying, coming on to his final hot lap. We saw a few other guys, like some Max Weiland in the junior category, kind of struggling and really getting the most out of the kart. Even Lucas Palacio, who was really quick in qualifying, had a couple moments where it was right on the edge of going off the track. So what's quick around here is using up as much track as possible, but what's also dangerous about that is, of course, dropping a tire. And like you mentioned, it makes the track dirtier for others. Once you start dragging that dirt on the track, it makes it slicker and slicker. So we'll be finishing up warm-up here. Again, a slick track. It's one of the things the drivers will be mindful of, trying not to over-abuse their equipment. Only 5 minutes of distance in this warm-up. So we'll see if they leave a little bit in reserve here to keep it more between the white lines. But David Golonia, one guy that has not left much in reserve. Like I mentioned, a 1:14.9. Still a little over a second off of where they were in qualifying, but Golonia off to a really nice start here today.
Yeah, Mystic Emery Lida there, guessing the lap times almost perfectly here. He's about 6/10 quicker than the rest of the field for David Golonia. John Banano fell back to second in that lap, and obviously dropped a tire. And it takes a while, right, to get that dirt off the 2 tires on the left-hand side of the kart. So for John Banano, still lapping around. Checkered flag is out. Our flagman Justin Dittrich throwing the checkered flag, and that's going to be it for your KA100 Masters. Still plenty of classes to go here, but with this session wrapped up, let's take a look at that track map here for you guys, so we can take a look here at the moment. So this is, I guess, the reverse layout that we have here. It goes clockwise, and it all starts on the main straightaway, which is on the left-hand side of this track map here. A very, very long straightaway here, Emery. So why don't you take us through some of the corners?
Yeah, so you go down the main straightaway. Turn 1 is technically the Little King, but for all intents and purposes, the reverse I-70 corner is the first real braking zone of the track, and it's a heavy braking zone. You're talking about one of the longest braking zones that you're going to see on the entire national circuit. And then you come out of that corner, out of I-70, up towards turn number 2 into what we call the shark fin or the Monza. That's, again, a lighter braking zone, but still very interesting and fun to drive, in my opinion, on this track. It's a kind of off-camber corner, carry a lot of entry speed in, use up about 2/3 of the track on exit, and come up through turn number 4 into the scoreboard hairpin in turn 5. Again, interesting entry to the corner using the rumble strips on the entry to the corner. Use up all the track. Then on exit, you come out of that through up to the green corner, which is the left-hander, kind of, again, up over the hill, over the mounds. Another fast corner. I mean, this track, you have a lot of fast apexes. Getting on the gas and carrying as much rolling speed as possible will be critical. And then up through, back into the corners, turns 8 and 9, fast, flat out in most classes, maybe not in the OK or the shifter side of things, into another heavy braking zone in turn 10, where there's a lot of grip on line in that back hairpin there, the cell tower hairpin. You go up through into the double left, which is a very tight complex, but you can carry a lot of speed through there, especially in the KA side of things. And into the right-hander, which is probably the most common place where someone would drop a wheel, is that right-hander through turn number 12, I believe that is, onto what is normally the scale tower corner, where you go down to the right-hander, a very fast right-handed corner in turn 13, up through 14 and 15, the 2 S's again, very fast, almost flat out on the KA, and you get into turn 16, the final corner, not as much overtaking opportunity there as on the normal layout where you're able to go into turn 1 and draft up, but still I expect we will see a lot of close finishes through those last 3 corners.
Yeah, I mean, and that's one thing when we talk about a track layout like this, right? A lot of drag races all the way to the line in those 290-degree corners. You can either make or break your race through that section there. But coming onto the track now, your Micro Swifts, the youngest of our classes here, from ages 7 to about 10 years old. Here, and I think that is right, 7 to 10 years old. But we do have a couple of the younger drivers here on the racetrack. There you have it, the Miami Swift powered machines, as Easton Kubinski goes around here early in this morning warm-up, and a couple of other drivers, and you're already starting to see how tricky the conditions are here this morning.
Yeah, and again, these Micro Swift drivers, they'll come onto the track, and the last time they were out here, they were on new tires, heat of the day, a lot of heat in the track, and of course not any moisture out there. And now with this morning still coming in, you're going to see a lot more slipping and sliding, and I think it caught a couple of drivers out through the shark fin. But again, Micro Swift, one of the most competitive classes all season long. We've seen this guy right here, Parker Stewart, has been really good through the second half of sort of the spring and has put on a lot of good performances, and so I expect this to be another great show in Micro Swift. Yeah,
Parker Stewart has done a good job indeed. I mean, he had he had a maiden heat race victory 2 weeks ago at Trackhouse Motorplex, just about 8 hours down the road from where you're from, Emery. But yeah, Parker Stewart has done a good job really coming to his own with the BJR MDRL Kart team. So he's out and racing here this weekend along with 28 or 29 other drivers. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think 29 drivers total in this Micro Swift class here this weekend. Zane Burgess also here this weekend. Didn't put it on the pool. If I'm not mistaken, it was Jaden Francisco, the Ryan Perry Motorsports machine, that was able to put it top of the timing screens in qualifying yesterday. But let's run you down your field. The 22 of Parker Stewart on your screen. The 91 of Jake Banano for the Team Ferris Racing Kart Republic team racing here this weekend. The 55 of Zane Burgess, the Jamaican sensation, makes his return here this weekend and has already a lot of wins to his name, and definitely the driver to beat this year in the Micro Swift class. Easton Kubinski, we saw him go for a spin early on. He's in the 38 here this weekend with the AEM OTK team. Dutch Westbrook in the 33. We saw an early end to his qualifying. Win Gottschalk here this weekend as well. Jaden Francisco, your pole sitter. Zev Gottschalk, Lincoln Wiley, Drake Williamson, George Zeminski, Jack Katowski, Christian Thomasian, Miles Wilson, Brody Stoffel, Marcelo Flores, Darius Warnowicz, Trip Golnick, Logan Arteta, Chase Dixon, Louis Thomasian, Dominic Gaddis, Danny O'Gara, Austin Taylor, Kaysen Hendrickson, and Lawrence Perriman, and Liette Simonelli. 28 drivers on the racetrack now, but I believe we do have 29 here this weekend.
Yeah, 29 this weekend, and again, one of the most interesting things in qualifying was how critical the draft was, and also I think at times the front group maybe getting a little bit discombobulated. You saw that it cost Zane Burgess a little bit of time there in qualifying, and I think that he, along with Jake Manolio, Jaden Francisco, and then also the likes of Wayne Gottschalk as well as Danny O'Gara, all of them had the pace to run up in that front group, but it just kind of worked out to where there was some differences in track positioning, and that kind of set the grid for qualifying. So far, though, Easton Kavinsky, though, aboard the AEM machine, off to a really good start so far. Danny O'Gara pretty close behind, and Zane Burgess in third. So I think, again, a lot of the main contenders from yesterday that were really quick on the Micro Swift side of things are starting to get going early on this morning. And again, times for the first lap going to be a couple seconds off, but I think we'll see the quicker drivers are going to adapt pretty quickly here.
Yeah, no, most definitely here. As you mentioned, Kubinski, top of the timing screens. Danny O'Gara, currently second, a driver who drives at another racetrack here in Indiana. His parents, Sierra O'Gara and Mr. O'Gara, running Whiteland Raceway Park, just a couple of miles down the road, I believe, near South Bend, Indiana, if I'm not mistaken. Around there, as Parker Stewart there drops a tire. But yeah, Danny O'Gara, an Indiana kid himself, so has a lot of laps around a place like Castle Motorsports Park, and definitely going to be one of the drivers to look out for here this weekend. But for the driver there in between Easton Kubinski and Jake Manolio has definitely been the driver to beat. The Sodi Racing USA machine, as Zane Burgess has had a really good showing in this 2024 season. Really coming into his own after teammate Max Omacha left the Sodi Racing USA camp and others moved up through the ranks. But for Zane Burgess, has a lot of wins and has really come into his own this year. The 8-year-old really putting on a show. He was 7 years old last year, was already putting it up in the top 5 and trying to mix it in with his fellow Sodi Racing USA teammates. And then this year, he's definitely come into his own and been the class of the field so far. Every single time that we see him take to the racetrack, he's definitely either put on a defensive masterclass and has pretty good strategies when it comes down to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for Zane last year, he had the pace in a lot of races, but maybe the racecraft needed a little bit of work. And again, racing against kids that were older than him, as is typically the case in Microswift. You get a year or so where you're kind of the younger kid in the block. You have to go through some of the growing pains on the racing side, and then when all of them move up to the mini side of things, like we see with Parker Ives, Maxwell Macha, Josh Bergman, among others, you get into the second year, and suddenly you're the guy that kind of has all the experience. And I think we're seeing that now, where Burgess has been kind of challenged by a lot of guys, but he has a little bit of the experience upper hand and has pulled off some amazing moves to get himself into P1 like he is right now. Although, as I say that, Jaden Francisco goes P1.
Yeah, and Zayden Burgess, not the driver on pole here this weekend. That's the driver on your screen for the Ryan Perry Motorsports team, Jaden Francisco. We expected to see Zane up there, and I believe he was either second or further back in the top 5. But this kid right here put on a good show yesterday in qualifying here for the number 32, and really showed his pace yesterday, right? I mean, throughout the weekend and throughout the year so far, Francisco's been putting it up there every single time that he goes out on the racetrack. And this weekend, he was able to get it done in the qualifying session.
Yeah, and I mean, he wasted no time there in qualifying. Like I mentioned earlier, he got good positioning. We saw Burgess back out of his fastest lap in qualifying. That put him third on the grid, but ultimately, it's not going to matter all that much. I think that anyone in the top 5 or 6 on this micro category are close enough to possibly get the win. Jaden Francisco, though, a really good effort from him yesterday. I think that he is going to be one of the main guys to watch here. Again, so far 0.2 of the second clear and warm all by himself, too. He has not had the benefit of a draft for most of the session. He got 1 or 2 laps with a slight toe, but he has been bar none the quickest on the track so far, as we now are going to get the checkered flag here. We'll see what Francisco and others can do on their last run around here. Zane Burgess crossing the line does not improve enough, and so Francisco, by the looks of things, looks like he's going to stay in P1 with a couple tenths back to Zane Burgess, Easton Kaminsky, Jake Manalio, Hudson Howard, and the rest of your Microswift field, Caleb.
So with the Microswifts working their way into the pits, we'll take this chance to take our first commercial break on this Saturday morning. When we come back, we have a lot more classes for the rest of our free coverage here this morning. You're watching Kart Chasers live coverage of the Stars Championship Series. Don't go anywhere.
So you finally want to get behind the wheel, huh?
Yeah, I've been shooting for 3 years and I've never got to drive.
Well, you're going to need some more gear than just your helmet. Why don't you go to shopakr.com. They got their inventory online and they'll ship it the same day if you order before 5:30 p.m. Eastern.
They got shoes?
Yep.
Gloves?
Yep.
Rib protectors?
Got those too.
Can they make me go fast?
No.
Here at Acceleration Kart Racing, we've got everything you need to get on track. What happens next? Well, that's on you. Check us out online at shopakr.com.
We're at a commercial break.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Stars Championship Series at Castle Motorsports Park. It is the king of the castle as we get set to go for today's action. The first couple warm-ups in the books now. My name is Emery Lyda. I'm joined again by Caleb Vieska as you get a look at the Micro Swift field. And Caleb, I mean, we're getting into the Pro Rock Master Shifter category, and a lot of good drivers getting set to go here.
Yeah, a lot of good drivers and a lot of class in this Masters field. I believe we have around 20 or 25 Master Pro Rock and Master KZ shifters. Yesterday was Matt Machiko. The driver was able to put it on the pole position, as long as a couple of others who worked their way out onto the racetrack. There's Mike Rivera himself out on the racetrack here for the Rivera Racing GFC team here this weekend, and with a lot of other drivers here as well. Joe Ruck makes his return, as well as Skitchy Barnes in his debut season at the Stars Championship Series this year, as well as a couple of others, and we'll run you down the entire field as soon as they cross our start-finish straight to give you a full rundown of the field. Jeff Mills, one of the drivers there from just outside of Kansas City, Missouri, on the racetrack here from Kansas. There's Skitchy Barnes, who had a really, really good showing on his rock-powered Maranello machine at the opening round at the Charlotte Motor Speedway at the Queen City Gambit, and for him, he was the winner overall on the rock-powered machine, which is really surprising because there's other drivers who run the KZ, which, you know, theoretically, or it really is quicker than the rock-powered machine, but that didn't matter that weekend for Skitchy Barnes and beat the rest of the field.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's within a couple of tenths the rock power is, but I think there's a slight advantage to the KZ side of things. And so for Skitchy to walk away with the round one victory was super impressive. But again, I think this mixed class, you're going to see some good racing here. Ultimately, with the field spread, the KZ versus rock isn't as big of a deal, although at a track like Newcastle, I think you'll see it will be a bit harder for Skitchy. And we saw that in qualifying, a little bit of a struggle for him relative to maybe what you would expect. And I think some of that could definitely be attributed to the rock power plant and some of the differences that come along with that compared to the KZ motor, like you're seeing with Jake Fetter, who again, his second national start on a shifter engine. So for him to be as competitive as he was in Charlotte, we'll see if he can get some of the racecraft things out of the way here. But we know that he's had the pace throughout the season, and I think that on his KZ power, he'll stand a pretty good chance alongside a lot of the other KZ drivers here.
So starting down your field, there you have Jake Fetter. He's in the 612 Com Kart. Mike Rivera's in the 522 GFC. Skitchy Barnes, we saw him earlier. He's in the 509 Maranello, as well as Joe Ruck. Robert Feige in the 611. Matt Machiko, your pole sitters, in the 603. Luis Quinones in the 621. Two Luis Quinones here this weekend, so we're going to try and differentiate them. One of them in the factory kart JMF team here, tent here this weekend, as well as Brad Danoff in the 617, Kelly Johnson in the 524, Michael Gosch in the 691, Ryan Frank, Hugh Templeman, Morn Van Tak, Brian Chatfield, Scott Presti, Jeff Mills, Ryan Estep, and Diamandez Ortiz. 18 drivers on the racetrack now, and I believe we're missing the other Luis Quinones here at the moment, but it should be about 19 or 20 drivers total who are supposed to go green here later today, whenever we get into heat racing action. Again, for you guys watching us here bright and early this morning, the warm-up sessions is the only free coverage that we have today. So for $9.99 a month, become a KC Premium member and watch all the racing action live across all the series that we go to as we go green this weekend with the KC Summer Series, and we begin all the summer racing action. So again, $9.99 a month and become a KC Premium member. Watch all the racing action live. So after this, after all the warm-up sessions wrap up, we're going to go straight into heat racing action, and that's going to be for the KC Premium members behind the paywall. But back on track, the 612 of Jake Fetter just went quickest, the 109.136 here, and as I say that, Robert Feige able to take him off the top of the timing charts.
Yeah, and again, still trying to build some temperature, build some pressure into those tires. I think with the new MG compound, you're going to see a little bit longer for these KZ guys to take full center stage and get down to the pole time that we saw yesterday, which was a 106.89. Again, by Matt Machiko at a really good run yesterday. Like Hale mentioned, there's 3 guys that have not set a time so far in this warm-up. Again, that is not totally unexpected. I mean, it's a 7:45 start for this warm-up, so maybe some guys opting to go to Waffle House or something this morning, kind of take a little bit of a session off. I mean, in Masters, you've already got a good amount of data from the weekend, and I don't think it's going to be too representative from what they're running later on in the day in their heat races. throughout the heat of the day and possibly in the rain later. So I think maybe taking the session off, sleeping in a little bit, that might be the play for some of these master drivers here.
Yeah, definitely going to be, I guess, a play or a strategy for some of them, right? A little bit of a slower morning, but as the sun continues to rise, we close our blinds here in the commentary box. So the sun definitely rising and getting into our eyes here early this morning, Emery. But with the sun rising, the track continues to warm up and gets quicker and quicker every single session that goes out onto the racetrack.
Yeah, the sun's definitely rising indeed, and so are the lap times here, down to 108.1 for Robert Feige. Again, every time it seems like they're dropping half a second or more, so that is impressive to see from him. Scott Presti, Matt Machiko, they're up there. The first Rock Master power plant is Michael Rivera in the 4-spot aboard the GFC machine. He's about 3.5 tenths off, and that's round about the difference that we saw yesterday, which kind of makes me think that the Rock machines are a little bit underpowered compared to the KZs here. I mean, we saw, again, like I mentioned, Skitchy Barnes struggling a bit yesterday. Joe Ruck on the KZ power plant was also off on his Maranello, so it could have been more of a chassis side of things. But I do think that this track layout lends itself to some excellent shifter racing. It'll be interesting to see the power dynamic between the Rock and the KZ guys.
Yeah, definitely going to be something to look out for here this weekend as we get down to the last couple of seconds in this qualifying session. About 30 seconds to go for these Pro Masters and Rock Masters in the first of their sessions here this morning. And I believe the Pro classes won't go out onto the racetrack until later today. I believe when we take our lunch break is when they will do their first warm-up session, and that will be later on in the day. But after the Rock Master shifters come into the pits later on, we're going to go straight into your KA100 juniors here, and we'll see what those drivers can do when they go out. A pretty big KA junior class as well. I mean, with the numbers here this weekend, Emery, I mean, we rolled up into the racetrack yesterday. The first time that everybody was here, that it was at full force and everybody was out here driving. I mean, an absolute packed house here this weekend for the second round of the Star Championship Series at Castle Motorsports Park. We are packed from fence line to fence line. The entire, I believe, 50-plus acre lot here that Newcastle sits on here in Spiceland, Indiana. Absolutely packed. Over 287 entries here this weekend with about more than 500 people on site. Definitely getting into, if I'm not, probably the thousands here this weekend. About not going to estimate too much because I'm not that good at math. Emery's a lot better than me, but checkered flag comes out. And Robert Feige, the quickest of your Pro Masters. He's on the KZ power plant. As expected, right? The first of the rocks is going to be Skitchy Barnes in 5th, and that's really where he's found himself all weekend.
Yeah, somewhere in that 5th to 8th range is about where Skitchy's been, and we'll see if he can find that last little bit, maybe overcome a little bit of the power deficit. But another guy with a good run was Joe Ruck in the 3rd spot, Scott Presti in 4th, Skitchy Barnes 5th, Jeff Mills 6th, Michael Rivera in the other Rockmaster machine that's in the front in 7th, Jake Fitter in 8th, Brian Chatfield 9th, and Morten Van Tok in the 10th position. Luis Quinones, the only one in this warm-up session, was in the 11th position, so a good run from him, and up through the rest of your 18 karts that made it through the field. So I think that this is going to be an exciting set of heat races for the Rock and KZ Masters, but we've got K Junior coming up on deck for their warm-up, but first, a break.
USA, a top-level performance team with unmatched hospitality, offering a full-service driver development program with year-round testing available in Miami, Florida, and the official North America racing team of Parolin Racing Chassis. Chassis and parts available at ParolinUSA.com.
Are you ready to get behind the wheel? From Formula One to NASCAR and IndyCar, all the pros start here. information, check us out online at mcckarting.com or call us and go racing today.
Are you looking for an advantage in your competition? Well, Kart Class has done the hard work for you. We've traveled to your racetracks to give you the inside knowledge. So what does Kart Class offer? We've got drone footage that captures the racing lines, visual markers for your braking points, acceleration zones, and the best overtake opportunities on your racetrack. Pedal cam to show you where to brake and when to accelerate, and 360-degree footage to make sure you don't miss any parts on the racetrack. We've covered 13 racetracks in the United States, and Australia, you're up next. So visit kartclass.com to get your track information.
Welcome back here to the second round of the Stars Championship Series. It's the King of the Castle at the new Castle Motorsports Park. We are back and live to see the KA Junior category. Over 60 entries this weekend, split into 2 groups as we get set to go. And you can see Isaac Malka on the track now, Caleb.
Yeah, and we'll definitely get to hear from some of these junior drivers here in a second as Simon Sykes is down on pit lane. And we'll get set to hear from some of these drivers who went pretty quick yesterday. The likes of Isaac Malquit, the only non-MPG Academy driver inside of the top 5. So we'll be looking to hear from him or some of the MPG Academy drivers here shortly. But about over 50 drivers here this weekend, Emery, on what's going to be an action-packed KA Junior class like it is every single weekend. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we have about 25 drivers coming out onto the racetrack now, the likes of Michael McGoy, who again struggled in qualifying yesterday after some sort of issue, put him further back in the field, about almost close to third or second to last in his group. So when that's combined, that's further back in like the 58 mark. So definitely going to be a drive up the field for Michael McGoy, and we saw that for him as well at Charlotte in the pre-final after an early wreck put him out of contention in one of the heat races. He had to drive up the field in the pre-final. So going to be a lot of the same for Michael McGoy here today in this qualifying section. Jackson Deal there on your screen. Right behind him, Isaac Malquit. Cameron Marsha, the next driver there in his Trinity Karting Group Kart Republic, with Mason Kuhn right behind. And Bex Cranston currently your top 5, but a lot of people, a lot of drivers, I should say, Emery, struggled yesterday in this qualifying session, and they find themselves with a lot of work to do in the heat races later on today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you mentioned Michael McGoy. He'll roll off 19th in his heat. He was 27th overall in the fast group. 11 guys beat him in the slower group. So, again, McGoy, another guy that has to go through the field. Looking down through some other guys, Luca Brancati, his Ryan Perry Motorsports teammate, a little bit further back than he would have liked. Chase Gassiet-Lee, for the second straight race in KA, really struggling in the qualifying side of things. 20th in his group, 40th overall, so a lot of work to do for Gassiet-Lee. These are guys that are at the front of the field a lot in the national side of things, but on the flip side, it was a really good day for the MPG Academy guys. I mean, Caleb Tarter, as well as Johnny Antonino, with a lot of pace in Group A. They rocked out the front row with Landon Buer up there as well in the 3rd spot. So all 3 MPG guys showing a lot of pace with their junior program. They've got a number of guys there as well. Jackson Deal inside the top 10 as well. So, I mean, this MPG program looking strong so far to start the weekend.
Yeah, as they continue to lap around here at the moment. Currently the driver who's quickest, Rowan McCurdy, a 1:15.805. And I mean, Emery, you predicted almost perfectly the lap times that the KA 100 Masters would put down. What are we expecting here in this early morning session for these juniors?
Yeah, so the track's definitely come in a lot more than it was on the very first session day in KA Masters. So knowing that yesterday in qualifying they got down to a 1:12.2 on new tires, this time the lack of new tires is going to hurt them a little bit, as is the track. But I would still expect a time in the high 112s to low 113. So if you were a betting man, I would say somewhere between a 112.8 and a 113.1 would be the fast time in warm-up.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to take that money line, you can definitely place your bets on Casey Betting, and that's not true because that does not exist. But
hey, we're trying not to get any gambling regulation warnings here.
Yeah, definitely not. But hopefully in the near future, yeah, you can bet on some of the odds that Emery Lida puts down for us. That'd be a lot of work to come up with an app like that. But on your screen now, Ty Fisher and Travis Pettit, the two TB Kart team, two Race Lab TB Kart drivers, here this weekend, and both of them super, super quick yesterday in qualifying. Travis Pettit was able to put it closer to the front row. I believe he qualified second in his group. Not sure where he ended up finishing overall, if he got his lap time deleted or what happened to Travis Pettit yesterday. But whenever we get into heat racing action, we'll definitely finish covering that. Ty Fisher, one of the drivers who found himself in the B group when it came down to qualifying after issues for him in happy hour, was able to salvage a good qualifying result nonetheless, putting it inside of the top 10 overall. So for these two TB karts, they were, whenever I went over to their tent and talked to them, Ty was like, you know what, the John Deere tractors this weekend are fast, and they've been showing their pace all weekend long.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ty Fisher, I mean, he's been quick no matter what the session has been. He got unfortunate with a mechanical failure in the happy hour session, but still rolling off, I believe, 4th in his heats later on today. So even though he had to run all by himself, could only get down to, I believe, a 1:12.9 in that qualifying session. We know that TB kart has a lot of pace in it. So with him and Travis Pettit, they've both shown top 5 pace. Pettit will roll off inside the top 5 as well. I think he was 4th overall after the merge in qualifying. So good to see from Pettit, good to see from Fisher as they continue to wind down the laps here. 37 seconds left in this warm-up. We'll see if we get the checkered. I think these guys are going to get one more lap, as well as most of the rest of the field. Maybe a little bit at the back won't get a chance, but for Fisher as well as for Travis Pettit to be this quick, especially for Pettit, a new team for him this year, working with Martin Pierce and the Race Lab TB kart guys. You would expect Fisher to continue to get better and better, as well as with Pettit, who makes his debut in the series and goes to the top with a 1:13.5.
Yeah, so pretty good in the process for Travis Pettit, 1:13.549. So about 3/10 off from what you said, Emery. 4/10 off, I should say. You said 13.1 and 1:12.8, I believe. So I'll definitely keep you accountable for that. See what it ends up at here.
There's still more time in the session, and there's also one more group too. So I think we're going to see the likes of Isaac Malkut with their one last lap that we get here to improve on the lap time. So Malkut coming through the last few corners again yesterday. Outside the MPG boys, I think Malkut had probably the best pace consistently in qualifying. He was inside the top 5. He was top 5 in pretty much every session he ran, and he has looked really good. So through the final couple corners here, you can see a lot of curbing through the entry of turn number 13. He comes out of the final corner. Let's see what time Malkut does. Is he any better? Still stays in 5th. Roman McCurdy, though, a 1:13.2 goes to the top of the board. That's getting close to my prediction. We'll see what Pettit and Fisher can do here.
Very, very close. Checkered flag is out, and we still have our other half of K8 juniors who are getting set to go green right after this session. After all these drivers go into the pits here. But for the end of this session, Roman McCurdy, top of the timing charts here, 1:13.298. Travis Pettit, 2nd. Ty Fisher, 3rd. Gabriel Balog, 4th. And Jackson Deal, currently 5th. And Isaac Malquit, the driver who qualified 2nd in his, not in his group, who qualified 2nd overall, currently 6th. Mason Kuhn, 7th. Derek Wargo in the driver line comp cart, 8th. Bex Cranston, 9th. Michael McGoy, 10th. So pretty good considering the qualifying session that Michael McGoy had at the end of the day yesterday. But we'll be looking to hear from some of these drivers here shortly, but getting set to go out onto the racetrack. Your K8 100 juniors for the second of their warm-up sessions here, Emery.
Yeah, this should be a good session just to see how competitive everyone is. I mean, you mentioned Michael McGoy. Still, though, has to find a second. That's the nature of this track. It's such a long track. There's so many corners to gain or lose time. And so as such, the field spread is going to be bigger than it normally would be. So I think that we're going to see a lot of evolution in this K8 junior side of things. I mean, Roman McCurdy was not really anywhere in the top 5 for most of yesterday. I think he did not quite have the qualifying that he would have been looking for. If you look at his overall numbers, I mean, you're talking about a guy that was closer to 20th overall than inside the top 10. So I think that for Roman McCurdy to start off the day with a P1 in his warm-up group, that has to be encouraging. I would still expect the second group to go a little bit quicker just because of track evolution and seeing what the first guys did, but I certainly would say that for McCurdy, as well as for the likes of Travis Pettit and Ty Fisher that had a good day yesterday, this is a strong start to their Saturday day of heat racing.
Yeah, so the engines come to life, and for the second half of the warm-up groups here, the likes of Enzo Vidamontian and others getting set to go out onto the racetrack here shortly, and the other MPG Academy drivers here as well. John Antonino, the driver who put it on the pole on his return after moving teams over the winter from the Tesoro Raceworks CRG team over to the MPG Academy boys here this week. And a return for them, and that entire team was really happy to have John back. It all started at the Stars Championship Series, and it continues here this in the second round here this weekend, and already doing a good job putting it on the pole position and being super close as well in the OKNJ category, being super close to the likes of Lucas Palacio, who was able to put it on the pole position. So we'll see what it's like for John Antonino when we get into racing action here. Had a win at the Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati, won the Clash at the club last year to finish off the season, and had a really good showing, and looks to repeat a little bit of the same success that he had last year here this year, with hopefully for him a lot more wins as the second group out onto the racetrack now. Marco Romero in this group, as well as Nathan Golseth and a couple of other drivers here. So we'll see what it's like. But already some drivers have here in the, I guess on the exit route, one driver into the wall here early, and that's going to end their session before they're even able to make it out onto the track.
Yeah, unfortunate there for them, but really, I mean, this is another thing that is a little bit dangerous about this track when it comes to, as a driver, understanding how to get out of the pits, because in this morning session with Cole, you cannot be scrubbing your tires too aggressively out of the pit lane, or else you will do what this one unfortunate junior driver just did on the exit of the pits and crashing the barrier. And I can speak from not personal experience, but seeing people around me do it. That pit wall and the fence that's around it can destroy go-karts. So unfortunate for the driver there. We did not get a number on that. We'll try to identify that for you. But in the meantime, here's a look at the front of this group. Of course, Caleb Tarter yesterday was sensational. John Antonino aboard his MPG Academy machine was also really good. So I think as these two come through the final corner, we'll see how they approach this warm-up session, going straight out to the front of the field. Those two, and Landon Buer, all off to a good start in the session as they're going to head down into turn number 2. And Tarter leads the way away from Antonino as the rest of the field files through the first couple corners here, Caleb.
Yeah, so they continue to lap here. Let's run you down the 25 drivers in this group. Caleb Tarter here, who put it up there in the field as well. John Antonino, Landon Buer, Indy Anderson, Donovan Hogan, Ryan Mort, Marco Romero, and the DPK Bennick America's Machine. Max Weiland for the MPG, not the MPG boys, goodness gracious, the Magic Kart team here at Emory. And we had so many teams here this weekend and so many manufacturers. I mean, it gets difficult at some point, right, to keep up with all of them, but we continue to do our best, and that's our job. We need to know all this. Christopher UC in the 833, Davis Henry, Juther Moswami, Tristan Murphy, Casey Mosley, Jacob Scheibel, Luca Brancati, Nate Golseth, Thomas Anthony, Wyatt Smith, Raider Santos, Henry Taylor, Isabella Simpson, Ezekiel Height, Enzo Vitamontien, Kai Mars, Benham Abernathy, Brendan Siraki, and Charlie Myers, a 27 out on the racetrack here in this warm-up A group, who continue to lap around as Antonino drops a tire there, and that can happen and can ruin your run coming onto the main straightaway. So, for Antonino, definitely testing the limits here early on, and that's something you don't really want to do here early on, because the tires are still super dirty going into turn 1, Emory.
Yeah, but if there's a time to drop a tire, it's probably lap 1 and warm up with your teammate right behind you. Yeah. So, I don't know. I think that's one of those things that the MPG boys, I mean, you don't want your drivers driving off the track, but if it's Antonino and he was on pole yesterday and he's been really quick all weekend, and he was just quickest by 3.5 tenths on that first lap, I think you live with that and you continue to, maybe not encourage those wheel drops that we just saw another one out of green corner, but, I mean, it's clearly working for him to push the limits. And so I think you take a couple of those mistakes as long as he knows the Esarena and just a little bit for the heat races. I mean, him as well as Carter and Buer just already firing off really well early on in this warm-up.
Yeah, so not too bad, and like you said, a 114.936 for John Antonino, Landon Buer, a 115.288, so for Antonino, 3 tenths quicker than the rest of the field. Vitamontien moves up to P5, and we haven't really heard too much from Enzo Vitamontien here this weekend. I believe was inside of the top 10, but, whenever we get into racing action, we're definitely going to see the Trinity Karting Group Kart Republic of Enzo Vitamontien. So he has been the driver to beat all year long in the junior category. I mean, always up there, always fighting, as we go and see where he finds himself out on the racetrack. And there he is Enzo Vidamontien, 2 wins 2 weeks ago at Trackhouse Motorplex at the United States Pro Kart Series, winning in the KA100 Junior class, and then after post-race penalties, won the X30 Junior main event as well. So a good showing for Enzo Vidamontien at Trackhouse, taking a lot of trophies to his name and looks to do the same here this weekend. Was also close to a race win at the opening round here for the Queen City Gambit, but a race in between himself, Michael McGoy, and Isaac Malquit really put him out of contention. And if I'm not mistaken, maybe off the podium for Enzo Vidamontien at the end of that one. So unfortunate nonetheless, but another Kart Republic there. Marco Romero, who as well had a pretty good showing at the first round, as well as Max Weiland in across all categories. So definitely something to look for here, Emery.
Yeah, another guy that I think is one of the more interesting storylines today as well is Ezekiel Haight, you see on the screen, the 884 machine. He is in the Ryan Perry Motorsports tent this weekend, has shown pretty solid pace. Again, a track that he's got a good amount of laps around, having run the Route 66 series. And so I would expect him to run up towards the front of the field as he follows into Vidamontien through the slower section of the track and onto the last couple quicker corners here. Vidamontien, again, the standard in the junior category. Another guy in that pack, Benham Abernathy. Maybe not quite the qualifying that you would have wanted outside of the top 20, but he's shown a lot of pace so far this weekend aboard his host driver development machine, and has really been inside the top 15 to 20 for the last couple of months here, trying to get better and better in the KA junior side of things. So, I mean, Enzo Vidamontien showing the standard, but it's Tristan Murphy showing the way from a pace standpoint, again, aboard his Ryan Perry Motorsports machine with a 113.38. So again, Murphy, I believe he's on a Super Tune entry. That's my bad on that one. Again, like you mentioned earlier, sometimes you get a little bit mixed up in the crosshairs, but Murphy off to a great start in this session as the laps click down. They should get about 1 to 2 more flying laps here, depending on their track position, as Vidamontien and Haight continue to work their way through the cell tower hairpin, Caleb.
Yeah, they continue to work together, and in an early warm-up session like this one, right? You really want to be working together, pushing each other. I mean, yesterday in qualifying, track position was a big key factor across all classes. And I mean, issues like that, right? You need to be with a driver that you kind of trust and that you can trust to keep it on the track, to not really ruin a lap time by bringing dirt onto the racetrack. So that was one of the big keys there, and definitely one of the big talking points all day yesterday. Overall, John Antonino still quickest here, a 113.059, I believe, is out on the racetrack here at the moment. Benham Abernathy second, Ezekiel Haight third, and Enzo Vidamontien currently P4 with Tristan Murphy running up your top 5 in this morning warm-up session.
Yeah, Murphy again on the Super Team machine right by Marco Romero, but not for long as he makes a move through green corner to put himself at the front of that group. Probably will not have much of an improvement on this lap as Romero now pushing. You can see 2 of the smaller drivers. They both moved up from Mini after last year. Murphy in the 899 machine, Romero in the 807 FA Kart, again, the Veras truck. Romero getting himself acclimated nicely to the junior category, but this group, again, we've seen the pace go down already. The top 4 beating the best time from the first session as they come now to what will be the checkered flag. There you can see Max Weiland in the background making a move into turn number 3. John Antonino resets fast time with a 112.9. So we're right in the range. Hey. Murphy up to third. Abernathy stays in the second spot. I don't think any of that group's going to improve too much on this last lap as they all get the checkered flag. Enzo Vidamontien resets the second fastest time of 113.1. Abernathy to third. Murphy to fourth. Buer to fifth. And the rest of your KA Junior warm-up group A is in the books. So John Antonino starts today like he ended yesterday with a really fast time in the fastest position. And if you decided to take the Emery Lida money line in between the 112.8 and the 113.1, we'll give you a personalized high five later on today. But yeah, John Antonino in that gap range that our professional analyst Emery Lida gave us. So hopefully we can hear from John Antonino here shortly. But with the KA100 junior classes coming to a close. When we come back from this quick commercial break, we're going to go green with our Mini Swift class, where the likes of Parker Ives and others will take to the racetrack. You're watching Kart Chasers live coverage of the...
Studies show that even the best current generation of simulators only convince 50% of the human brain that they are real. Here at SimCraft, that just isn't realistic enough. Developed to offer the most realistic karting sim experience in the world, all testing has shown that the physics engine used in Simcraft's Grid 1 model convinces 90% of the human brain that you are actually on track. Now that is the real deal.
Brandon, why are there all these charges for just over $200 from Acceleration Kart Racing's website?
That's because AKR gives you free shipping on orders of $200 or more within the continental US.
Okay, but I thought you were just getting a pair of gloves. That's what, 70 bucks?
But if I'm getting a new pair of gloves, I might as well get a new pair of shoes to match. And then on top of that, I'll get a neck brace because with the shipping, it's basically free.
Yeah, I do not think the math checks out on that.
Everything you need, all in one place and shipped to your door for free for orders of $200 or more. Exclusions apply. Spend responsibly. Shop AKR.com.
Are you ready to go fast? From road race to sprint race, 4-stroke, 2-stroke, club, regional, and national, DYL Kart Sport brings a family fun atmosphere. We're here to help you. We've already got plenty of hardware here to start 2024, and with team manager Rhett Thomas bringing years as a champion driver and tuner, we're ready to take you to the front. Inquire now to find out more about our Comp Kart race shop and team at dylkartsport.com or driveyourline.com.
Welcome back to Castle Motorsports Park for the second round of the Stars Championship Series. Your Swift Stars have worked their way out onto the racetrack now, where we have 31 drivers total here this weekend. The likes of Parker Ives, Bashi Jimenez, Holden Myers, Royce Vega, Nicholas Mose, Marco Samet, Valentino Santillan, and others get set to go green here this weekend for what's going to be a pretty good weekend of racing for the Swift Stars. We saw, a runaway first round for Parker Ives at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, where nobody was able to really fight with Parker Ives, but that wasn't the case yesterday in qualifying, as he was not the driver on the pole position.
Yeah, no, Nico Kotowski, we saw him yesterday kind of put that pace into full form. It was a 3-kart group at the front of the field. They were all matching quick times. In the end, it was Kotowski putting it on the pole ahead of Ives and Enzo De Janeiro. Those were your top 3 throughout the day yesterday and in the final session, as now a big pack emerges kind of behind that initial entry. So you can see there Kotowski leading that group into turn number 2. As well in that group, you have the likes of Josh Bergman, Tucker Treve, as well as in that group ends. All of them working well together at the early stages of this warm-up to try to get some of the pace in that we saw from them yesterday. Enzo De Janeiro, though, already off to a really good start, over half a second clear of this pack and the rest of your mini Stars field.
Yeah, with 1 lap down, lap times will continue to improve here in this morning warm-up session for your Swift Stars. But like you said, Nico Kotowski went quickest yesterday in the qualifying session, and we'll start on the inside for both of the heat races later on today. And then going into the pre-final, they'll all shuffle up again, and that will set the starting grid for the main events tomorrow. But they continue to lap around there. Josh Bergman and his Kart Republic there in between and in that group as they continue to lap around. And we'll see what the second lap looks like for all of these mini Swift drivers when they cross the stripe. De Janeiro 118.367. Let's see what the second lap looks like for all of these drivers. Everybody improving, almost a second quicker. A 117.453 for De Janeiro that time by, and Parker Ives, a monster lap time, almost 3/10 quicker than De Janeiro in second now. Parker Ives a 117.143. So really quick for Parker Ives so far in this morning warm-up session here, Emery.
Yeah, absolutely. Parker Ives away from this group a little ways, still able to put in the fastest time of the session. There you see him right at the back of that kind of secondary train there, the 149 machine as it is for the Stars Championship Series in the Swift Stars category. Ives, again, made the move up to Mini this year. We saw the first couple races in Miami, maybe not quite what he would have been looking for, but since then, a great effort in Orlando. We saw in Charlotte, he was extremely quick and came away with the main event victory. And then at Trackhouse Motorplex for the United States Pro Kart Series, put it P1 there as well. So for Ives, his rookie year in the mini side of things looking phenomenal so far. And right now already working his way through the traffic here a little bit as he gets up to the rear end of Cameron Johnson, another guy who kind of moved up to the mini series a little bit late. This, I believe, his first national start on the mini Swift side of things. He's been running micro a lot early on in this year, but he's certainly getting acclimated well. And there's another guy, AJ Stoner, in the 141 machine, kind of a guy local to the Newcastle area. He's going to be looking to try to follow Ives through here, but Ives is putting a blistering pace on the board, a 116.9. That's making 2 passes too, so Parker Ives doing phenomenal right now.
Yeah, so very, very good lap times here this morning for Parker Ives. Your pole sitter, Nico Katowski, a 117.609, so just about 8 tenths behind the pace that Parker Ives has here at the moment. So some time to find, but still very early on, in the day. But the track continues to rubber up. The sun continues to rise here this morning. So track will only get quicker and quicker, and the rubber will only continue to get laid down as the day progresses. And that's one of the big things, right, Emery? You've had the chance to drive the new tire compound. That's been, I guess, a wrench for everybody who's been driving it so far this year. Just something to learn, right? What are the big differences compared to what we would have seen last year with that older compound to this year, especially at a track like Newcastle?
Yeah, so on the more technical side of things, it's a softer sidewall, which means that you kind of have to run the pressures a little bit differently. You have to raise them a bit as it gets later on in the heat with more heat cycles on them. So that's kind of the more physical characteristic, and they lay down more natural rubber at the track. In terms of the racing characteristics of the tire, has more grip, it comes in quicker, especially on the MG Red side of things. And within a couple of laps, you're going to see guys being able to ignite the tires. And so really that kind of places less of an emphasis on getting the pressure spot on, especially on the higher end, and more on simply getting the temperatures completely correct. So I think the MG Reds, the new compound, a lot of drivers like it. They like the new grip. And at this track in particular, we're seeing a big tire delta, upwards of a second quicker than the pole time NK Stars from last year to this year, about 9/10 of a second from KA Junior, and over a second in Swift as well. So big differences on the tire compound, Caleb, but I think that the new MG Reds are providing a really good challenge for a lot of guys. I think it's making for some really fast lap times on the 100cc packages.
Yeah, and while we're talking about tires, right, you made a really good point before we went live here this morning of the difference you can run in tire pressure, right, compared to, I guess, the normal layout going counterclockwise to this backwards layout that's clockwise. What are the two big differences that you're seeing in tire pressure at the Stars Championship Series layout?
Yeah, so the Stars layout, which utilizes the shark fin and is a reverse layout, the key difference that it has compared to a normal national circuit, either forward or reverse, is that instead of having 2 long straightaways that take up roughly 23 to 25 seconds a lap time if you're talking the KA side of things, you only have the 1 long straightaway down the main straight. So from a tire pressure standpoint, that's less time that you have to cool off the tires, which is kind of a trademark of Newcastle. When you run the 2 straightaways, it allows you to cool the tires a bit, lets you run a higher pressure than you would be able to at a track like Speed Sports that's your home, where you kind of have to run a lower pressure because of how much you're constantly working the tires. So that gets taken away a little bit with this layout. The other thing as well, with how many corners, how many high-intensity corners that come into play, the fast corners to end the lap as well as a lot of slow-speed corners back to back to back, you're putting more intensity in the tires, you're seeing more fall off. So I think that's another thing to keep in mind. But yeah, the pressures are going to be lower on this layout compared to the other national layout at Newcastle. Still a bit higher, I'd say, than other tracks like Speed Sports, but I think that this layout provides a unique challenge for tuners and drivers alike, like we mentioned earlier in the broadcast with running off the track.
Correct. So Parker Ives was the quickest in the Swift Stars category. Marco Samet was second, and Josh Bergman rounds up your top 3 for the Swift Stars category. KA Stars, the next field to go out on the racetrack now, and those engines have fired here, so we're going to go straight into that. From ages 14 plus, the likes of Jackson Warney being one of the younger drivers in this field. making the move up here at the Stars Championship Series. Still running junior across other series, but I decided to move up here for what's going to be a full campaign at the Stars Championship Series for Jackson Woney. But a very, very stacked KA senior class with a lot of drivers who, from the Midwest, a very Midwest-based KA senior field with a lot of class in this field. The likes of Brandon Lemke, who qualified 15th yesterday, starting about 6th or 7th for both of his heat races later on today. But some work to do for some drivers who had issues in qualifying yesterday, Emery.
Yeah, Lemke was 14th in qualifying, which would put him 7th in both of the B heat, or in the heat Group B heat races. So a little bit of work for Lemke to do, a lot of work for some other guys. There's Noah Jackson, who was quick in his group, but ended up roughly 30th after the field split. So he's got more work to do with his TKG machine in the 976. Not Joe Turney. I know that the kit can look pretty similar. It confused us a little bit yesterday, but that is Noah Jackson, and he's going to be looking to channel the Joe Turney pace here. So we've seen a lot of pace from a lot of guys. Drew James, another guy that you'll see behind him on the TKG machine. Wrench for Finn Bailiff at Charlotte, or at Trackhouse. Now behind the wheel at the Stars Championship Series, looking for an improvement on his Charlotte pace on a different chassis, but he's already off to a nice start, falling in there right behind Noah Jackson. Yeah,
and I'll tell you what about the 929. I mean, his first time really racing under a full team in his entire karting career. Did a work trade-off for the Sean Bailiff-led Trinity Karting Group Kart Republic team, and was able to get himself a ride here this weekend, and really took advantage of it, putting himself in the top 15 with a good starting spot here, out-qualifying the likes of Lemke, out-qualified Finnegan Bailiff yesterday by 1 spot, but still went a little bit quicker than Finn. But for Drew James, already showing his pace in that Kart Republic machine, was his first full, factory team start for Drew James. So good to see him lapping pretty quickly. And 4 Kart Republics here, Finnegan Bailiff as well, who was able to take his first national victory earlier this year at the SCUSA Pro Tour in Orlando. So he looks to go a couple of spots better here this weekend. He's starting 13th, qualified 13th overall. We'll start around the, like you said, 7th or 6th or 5th mark later on this evening whenever he gets set to go green for his heat races as well. But a very, very stacked field here in this KA Stars. Likes of Mick Gabriel, out on the racetrack as well. Eli Warren, the hometown kid, here running. So a lot of names. I mean, whenever you think about drivers that have won a lot across all series, they're here at the Stars Championship Series.
Yeah, definitely. We'll start to see some times on the board. Drew James, Finn Bailiff, as well as Logan Mueller. Those 3 TKG machines, in addition to Noah Jackson, all putting early stakes at the front of the leaderboard. James Overbeck, another guy, a little bit disappointing yesterday to be outside of the top 10, but I think that he's certainly got the overall pace that can beat up there. But for Finn, you mentioned the win in Orlando, but since then it's kind of been a little bit of a rocky road for him. I mean, outside of the top 15 in Texas for the first round of USPKS, here in the first round for Stars at Charlotte, got caught up in some first lap carnage, and then at Trackhouse Motorplex, just mistake or issue after issue for Finn. He was unable to really get a clean run in all the way throughout the weekend, culminating in a DNF in the final. So got to find some momentum for him, but one guy that I think has had a lot of momentum, even if the results haven't shown it so far this year, is James Overbeck. He was really quick at Trackhouse for USPKS. He's been quick at Charlotte, quick at SCUSA, quick pretty much everywhere. Your reigning KA Stars champion, still looking for that first national win, but he's done just about everything other than that to put himself at the forefront of this KA class. Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe James Overbeck's last podium was at the SCUSA Pro Tour at the start of this year, so still wanting to get back onto that podium for James Overbeck here this year. Had a lot of podiums last year, which prompted him a maiden championship, win for himself, but still looking for that first national win. And I mean, at the end of last year, he wasn't too happy about that championship. That's pretty much why he's not wearing the number 1 plate there as he drops a tire. So a little bit of a commentator's curse there for James. But, I mean, whenever I interviewed him at the end of the season last year, he just wasn't too happy. He was like, man, it doesn't really feel like I won anything because I didn't win a race. Yeah, the championship feels nice, but I didn't win a race, so I don't feel like I really deserved it. So hopefully for James, a track that he's super familiar with, he can get that monkey off his back here this weekend or even get himself back onto the podium the last time dating back to the SCUSA Pro Tour at Orlando earlier this year. Yeah, I think Overbeck, I mean, like we mentioned, he's had a lot of pace. He's really honestly built up good momentum because it is tough to consistently run in the top 10 or so in KA. So for him to be there every race is impressive. Just has to kind of fine-tune that last bit of racecraft to get himself all the way up to the top step. But I know the BGR, MDR guys have been working really well with him to get that last bit of progress. And we saw him track house coming oh so close to that maiden national win. But a guy that has been up at the front as well throughout the year. A little bit of a struggle in recent weeks as well as Eli Warren. But he's now on track, now passing TJ Coyne on the best part. You can see there Warren working his War Power machine up through the final 3 corners. Warren's had a lot of good pace this weekend alongside his teammates with Luke Powers and Vaughn Beasley. So they're going to be guys to watch throughout the heat. Mick Gabriel catching up to some traffic there with Adam Maxwell and Alex Murray working their way down into turn number 2. Maxwell, another local guy inside the top 5 for a lot of yesterday. He's 4th right now. Warren and Gabriel are P1 and P2, and the track is certainly coming into fruition. Only 7/10 off of what we ran in qualifying on new tires, and this is on used tires on a cold track. I'd expect the times to get a little bit quicker, as there you see Warren to the inside of Murray and Gabriel to the inside of Adam Maxwell.
Yeah, so for Adam Maxwell as well, a big AMAX Racing contingency here this weekend. He's currently P4, leading the charge for them in the 941 AMAX machine. And there you have Eli Warren, who's pitting out of his garage here this weekend, being local to new Castle Motorsports Park, and that entire War Power team decided to do some team bonding earlier this weekend, and decided to all shave their heads together to get ready for the second round of the Stars Championship Series. And hopefully we get to hear from Eli later on today, and maybe give him a little dig about his fresh new haircut. But you're already starting to see all the dirt that's been kicked up here so far, as one driver went off the racetrack there on the exit of turn number 13. So again, I mean, definitely this track biting back with some of these drivers here.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's so tough to get this place all the way right. I mean, you're pushing the limits. If you want to be quick around here, you have to use a lot of the track on exit. And you can see there, Mick Gabriel has been rapid. Similar to last year, honestly, where you kind of see these first 2 or 3 laps of the session, he is really good, really quick. And then the field kind of comes back to him a little bit as the session progresses, as the tires wear in a little bit. And we'll see. Last year at this race, I'd say Mick Gabriel had probably the most pace of anyone throughout the entire weekend, but it didn't quite transform into ultimate race pace. Got in an incident in the pre-final and had to run his way through the field in the final. Similar thing for Eli Warren, who was a little bit of an issue throughout the heat races, but I think that for both of them, they're going to be ones to watch and extremely competitive this year. So those two, again, local to the track, a lot of laps around here. Same thing goes for Adam Maxwell. They're all inside the top 10. A couple other names that have moved up recently. Again, Drew James, we talked about early in the session, up to 3rd. Finn Bailiff in 4th. Chris Harrower down to 6th now as Maxwell pops up. But those 3 guys, all with good sessions. Marco Monstranzi, a guy that I would have expected to be a little bit quicker in this one, as he'll start in the top 10 for the 2 heat races. But, I mean, this field absolutely stacked in KAs. They all get the checkered flag. And we get set for the second group of KA Stars.
Yeah, as we get set for the second group of our KA Stars. And Emery, one point I will mention, we haven't had pickup yet this morning, so good to see everybody, being calm before we go into heat racing action and really keeping it on the racetrack now. But as the last couple of drivers cross the finish line, we'll be hopefully looking to hear from some of these drivers here at some point. But before we go green with our second group of KA 100 seniors, we'll take this quick commercial break, and when we come back, hopefully hear from some of them.
Colin, I need a new 219 chain. I need a 77 toothbrush sprocket. I need some more chain lube, and I need it probably as soon as tomorrow. Dude, are you even listening? We need this to run this weekend.
Want anything else?
What do you mean?
I already got it in the Kart on Acceleration Kart Racing's online store, bro. All orders over $200 get free shipping.
Oh, throw in a set of tires.
Done.
Everything you need, all in one place, and shipped to your door for free on orders of $200 or more. Exclusions apply. Shop akr.com.
Are you ready to get behind the wheel? From Formula One to NASCAR and IndyCar, all the pros start here. more information, check us out online at mcckarting.com or call us and go racing today.
Parallel USA, a top-level performance team with unmatched hospitality, offering a full-service driver development program with year-round testing available in Miami, Florida, and the official North America racing team of Parallel Racing Chassis. Chassis and parts available at ParallelinUSA.com.
Are you looking for an advantage in your competition? Well, Car Class has done the hard work for you. We've traveled to your racetracks to give you the inside knowledge. So what does Car Class offer? We've got drone footage that captures the racing lines, visual markers for your braking points, acceleration zones, and the best overtake opportunities on your racetrack. Pedal cam to show you where to brake and when to accelerate, and 360-degree footage to make sure you don't miss any parts on the racetrack. We've covered 13 racetracks in the United States, and Australia, you're up next. So visit carclass.com to get your track information.
Well, welcome back to the Stars Championship Series for the second round here. The King of the Castle, as the second group of KA Stars have made their way out onto the racetrack. Eli Warren, the hometown kid, we've caught up with him here shortly. Eli, you got us down there on pit lane?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, so just a couple of questions here this morning for you. I mean, a pretty good qualifying session for the entire War Power team yesterday. I mean, what was that qualifying session like and seeing all you guys up there in the field?
Well, we knew because there's not really a happy hour that sets the grid. We knew if we got caught in traffic, it would be pretty bad for us. So we kind of just came to an agreement to go at the back and just try to get a clean lap. I somehow got to the lead, which you don't want to be in. So Vaughn, Mick, and Luke all got a draft off me. I set a pretty good lap. I ran an 11.7, but they all went faster. So they were able to get me, but I'm still fifth, so that's really good. But I'm just happy that we're all up there because I know how much qualifying can determine how the weekend goes. And for us to all be in the top 5, that really sets a good, it puts us in a good spot for the rest of the weekend.
Yeah, and tell me a little bit about these haircuts you guys have here this weekend. Walked past y'all's garage, and all three of you guys decided to buzz y'all's heads here this weekend. Just talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, we just decided why not. I mean, it's summer. Why not do it? We didn't really like the way our hair looked, so we tried a new way, and clearly it's working, so maybe other people are going to try to get fast.
Yeah, and Eli, I mean, talking about the more on-track stuff this weekend, I mean, you've shown a lot of pace. All three of you guys on the War Power machines have shown a lot of pace. You were at the Route 66 race a few weeks ago, kind of the first time on this layout with the new tire compound. How much do you think that has helped you guys kind of get in the swing of things and be competitive really from the get-go on Friday?
I wouldn't say it's helped that much. Obviously, it's our home track, so we know a lot, beforehand. Even if we hadn't ran route, we would know. And, we always just know the setup, what gear, what tire pressure, and that just helps a ton. So, obviously, anytime you go to someone's home track, they're always going to have an advantage, and we're trying to use that advantage as best as we can.
Yeah, well, Eli, we'll let you get set for your first 2 heat races later on today. Thank you for catching up with us.
All right, thank you.
Well, there you guys have it. That was Eli Warren. Heard there from him just now. And that entire War Power team has been super quick here this weekend. So we'll be looking to see what they can do here later on today. But that was Eli Warren, the hometown kid here this weekend. And we'll see what Eli can do here later on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's shown a lot of pace. We've seen Luke Powers as well going really well. But I think that really all the War Power guys are going to be extremely quick. So, I mean, them, Mick, Gabriel, all work together to be in the top 5 in qualifying, and I expect them to be at the front, as is this guy, Alan Isenbart, that we're seeing on the screen right behind Luke Powers there. Him, Mason Sergener, both working together, and then we'll see if Isenbart can find that last bit of pace that he seemed to be lacking yesterday. Yeah,
Mr. April himself was super quick all day yesterday, just looking to get up there. He's the lone KA senior for the Saudi Racing USA team here this weekend. Steven Isenbart not making the trip out here. But for Alan Isenbart out here this weekend, and has been doing a good job so far here today. Had another race victory in April at the Stars Championship Series last time out, and was able to do a good job that time and becoming the driver of the month there in April. So Alan Isenbart, definitely one of the drivers to look out for here this weekend. But a couple of other drivers here as well. We talked to Eli Warren. That's half of the War Power team. Luke Powers, the driver right ahead of them, is currently quickest, a 1:12.179 in this session so far. That's only the second lap. We still have about a minute, just over a minute and a half to go left in this session. So definitely a lot to look out for here in this one. But the other half of the War Power team, Luke Powers, powers his way to the front, a 1:11.815 that time by.
Yeah, and a couple of good guys there in the top 5 as well. We saw Josh Campbell yesterday put it on pole position. You're reigning king of the castle on the KA Stars side of things. He has been really kind of finding his footing a bit for BJR, MDR so far this season. We saw him struggle at the first round of USPKS, but here he is at Newcastle, a track that he was really good at last year. Last year it took him a few sessions to get into the end of the flow of things. Did not really come alive until the second part of the day on Saturday. But so far this weekend, he has been a rocket ship in P1 in qualifying. He's up to 3rd now. Austin Olds aboard his MPG Motorsports machine in the 4th spot. And Jackson Molney, so 2 senior rookies in the 4th and 5th positions. Both of them, I think, maybe a little disappointed with their qualifying yesterday, but I expect them to be at the front. But Luke Powers so far showing the way here at the early stages of this warm-up here, Caleb.
Yeah, definitely showing his pace here early on for the Wisconsin Wonder Kid. Finds himself down in 13th here this morning for Brandon Lemke in the 901, a 1:12.703, so still some pace to find for Brandon Lemke, and it could really just be that he's in traffic, but there is some shuffling now on the timing screens. Alex Fieldstein goes back to the top. Oliver Hodgson moves further up the order as well, goes up to 10th for the Comcart driver. Jackson Woney up to P5, and the pole sitter from yesterday, Josh Campbell, is currently 4th here, so hopefully for Josh on what's been a struggle to the start for his 2024 season, finally gets a result that he's been looking for so long. And like you said, the reigning king of the castle from last year. So hopefully for Josh, looks to repeat here this weekend with the BJR MDR LN Kart team here, Emery.
Yeah, I got the chance to talk to Josh down in Texas when we were on the grid for the USPKS race, and he was telling me kind of his struggles with the tire compound and kind of getting used to the new MG Reds, as well as a new team, new engine. A lot of new things for Josh Campbell, but he's been finding his rhythm here so far this weekend, and he's up front. Alex Feldstein, though, again, another guy that has shown a lot more pace in recent weeks for the Host Driver Development Team. We saw him be quick at Trackhouse. We saw pretty good pace from him in Charlotte, and so far this weekend, another guy that ran Route 66 that is up at the front of the field. Although having said that, Alan Isenbart, your round 1 winner, goes P1 with a 1:11.7. We're seeing the final time shuffling through here. Brandon Lemke in the top 10 and Oliver Hodgson in the top 10 as well in that 7th spot. So 2 guys with a lot of experience working their way up through the field. And Hodgson, again, maybe not as quick as you would expect him to be throughout a lot of the weekend, but I expect as the races come out throughout the day and as we see some movers and shakers, I would be shocked if Oliver Hodgson didn't have a lot to say about this weekend.
I mean, 1 lap pace is one thing, but I mean, going over a lot of laps and having to make passes and having to defend is definitely a whole other variable. But checkered flag is out. Alan Isenbart, quickest in the morning warm-up, went quicker than everybody else, than Eli Warren in that first group. So Alan Isenbart, the quickest driver this morning, with a 1:11.736. So a good start to the day for the Sodi Racing USA team. And if I'm not mistaken, I think we have our OKNJ class coming out onto the track next, and that's going to be it for our free coverage here this morning after the OKNJs go into the pits after their morning warm-up session, and we're going to go straight into our live coverage and premium member coverage later on today. But hopefully we can hear from some of these drivers, hopefully Josh Campbell. Hopefully we can have a word with him later on today, or we'll let him focus and lock in for his race coming on, for both of his heat races coming later today. But when we come back, the OKNJs will make their way out onto the racetrack with Lucas Palacio, who was a driver who put it all in the pole position in his junior debut. But that's all when we come back from this quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere.
We're at a commercial break.
ready to go fast? From road race to sprint race, 4-stroke, 2-stroke, club, regional, and national, DYL Kart Sport brings a family fun atmosphere. We're here to help you. We've already got plenty of hardware here to start 2024, and with team manager Rhett Thomas bringing years as a champion driver and tuner, we're ready to take you to the front. Inquire now to find out more about our Comp Kart Race Shop and team at dylkartsport.com or driveyourline.com.
Welcome back here to the second round of the Stars Championship Series. It's the King of the Castle, the final warm-up session of this fine Saturday morning here. We're here for the OKN Junior category, the OKNJs, so to speak. We have 9 karts on the racetrack. Yesterday was Lucas Palacio in his first start in the category, putting it on pole position. Again, a 108.4 of blistering lap time from Palacio, and a nice lap from Isaac Malkut as well in the Burrell Art Machine to put himself in that second spot. So Caleb, I mean, we're getting into this OKNJ uncharted territories for a lot of these junior drivers. I mean, what have you seen from them so far this weekend?
I mean, all weekend long, right? Well, at the first round so far, you asked about the weekend, but I'll do, I guess, the start of the season as a whole, right? I mean, the first round was a big learning experience for all these drivers, learning how to drive the OKNJ package, because it's a little bit different than what some of these junior drivers are used to driving the X30 Junior package. So a learning experience at the first round with a lot of mechanical issues across the board, but I mean, today it's been a lot better for everybody, and yesterday as well in that qualifying session. But I mean, for Lucas Palacio, super quick off the bat. I mean, was quickest in the happy hour session, was quickest in qualifying it, and by a good margin. Forrest Adams as well has had a good showing. The kid from North Carolina, or I guess moving to North Carolina. Tyrone Kemper Jr. as well, working his way up there, and for Isaac Malkut in the OKNJ package. I mean, across all the junior classes, Isaac Malkut has been super strong this weekend. But I mean, the biggest thing is passing has been super difficult around a track like Newcastle. Whenever these OKNs reach that rev limiter, Emery.
Yeah, it makes it tougher down the main straight, and also understanding how they struggle a bit on the bottom end. But I really do think that the power output for the OKNJ category is still really good and allows for good overtaking opportunities. But the field spread in this class, I think, is going to kind of limit some of that, Caleb.
Yeah, definitely something to look out for here. But as we're talking about some quick lap times, one of the drivers who had a really quick lap time yesterday was Josh Campbell for the BJR MPR LN car team. Josh, you moved teams over the winter from the Ryan Perry Motorsports team over to the BJR MPR team here this year. It was a struggle start to the year, but this weekend you got it done in qualifying. How did that feel?
Yeah, it's definitely just a sign of relief. The new tire really caught us out in Texas. It was really my first time on that tire. We didn't really practice on it, so we had quite the wrong setup on it. But after Texas, we just went home. I turned a ton of laps on the tire, and we got the setup perfectly dialed for qualifying, and then by then it was just about turning the lap, and I was in the perfect spot to do so.
Yeah, I mean, sorry. Looking back to last year, I mean, you had a really good showing here, crowning yourself the king of the castle with the RPM team. Going into the race here later on today and this weekend, do you think you can repeat the same success you had last year?
I mean, yeah, that's the goal. I don't know. I got a little bit lucky last year. They fought a little bit, let me kind of get away. Newcastle, it's got a lot of drafting zones. It's hard to get away, so I definitely think this year will be more of a race, but at the same time, we have that same pace to pull away again if we need to.
Yeah, and Josh, I mean, you mentioned kind of getting used to the new tire compound and sort of the differences from Texas to here, but another thing is running this year to last year, seeing times almost a second quicker. How much different does this track run on the new compound, and have you really found any differences when it comes to the racing side of things in terms of overtaking spots? I mean, knowing that you have a bit more grip and a little bit more rolling speed?
Yeah, the grip is you can definitely feel it a lot more than last year. I don't quite yet know for overtaking. I was doing a little bit yesterday throughout practice, but I think it'll race more the same. I mean, once again, it is K100 racing. It's still going to be chaotic regardless of the tire.
Yeah, well, Josh, we'll let you get ready for your heat races here, so thank you very much for catching up with us.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Well, there you guys have it from Josh Campbell, the pole sitter for the KA Stars class. Let's look back on the racetrack now. Lucas Palacio, he was quickest yesterday in the warm-up session. Hasn't been quickest here today in this morning warm-up session. A 111.571 for Palacio. He's currently 9th out of 9 on the racetrack. Tyrone Kemper Jr., on the other hand, is quickest, a 109.606 so far for Tyrone Kemper Jr. Max Weiland moves himself up to 2nd as lap times continue to ramp up here in this one. As we continue to follow around with Lucas Palacio, who makes his return to the U.S. here this weekend after a pretty successful start to his career over in Europe. So let's see what it looks like this time when Palacio crosses the line. A 110.164, so still a little bit off here this morning for Lucas Palacio.
Yeah, not sure if they're maybe dialing something in, maybe a little bit of a setup change that they're just testing, but certainly nowhere near the pace that we've seen Palacio run yesterday. A 108.4, his fastest time in qualifying, consistently in the low 109s to high 108s. So I would expect to see Palacio up at the front of the field. So for him to be 9th out of 9 so far in warm-up is definitely a surprise. But I mean, we're seeing the rest of the field get dialed in, certainly the field coming closer together. How about Davin Roberts yesterday? Maybe not quite the pace that he would have wanted on the OKN side of things, but I think he'll be in contention for a podium spot later on. Tyrone Kemper Jr. again, we saw yesterday, maybe not the pace that he would have wanted either, a little over half a second off in qualifying, but I think he's off to a good start, as is Max Weiland, who just pumped in a 109.2. We saw yesterday him go to 4th spot in qualifying. For him to be now 3rd after Roberts and Adams put in a little bit quicker lap times, that's encouraging for the Magic Man himself. So Max Weiland up to 3rd, Palacio to 4th, Malcutt to 5th, and now Chase Gasly at lead beats all of them up to 2nd with a 109.277, but still at the front of the field at the checkered flag is Davin Roberts for his Ryan Perry Motorsports machine. A 109.214 for Davin, puts himself in P1. Gasly at lead 2nd, Forrest Adams 3rd, Max Weiland 4th, and Lucas Palacio gets himself up into 5th here, Caleb.
Yeah, Malcutt 6th, McGoy 7th, Tyrone Kemper Jr. 8th, and Gage Corn running up your fields here in 9th. But with the OKNJs working their way into the pits, that concludes our free coverage on this Saturday morning here. This is the second round of the Star Championship Series from Newcastle Motorsports Park, the King of the Castle. We're going to switch over to our KC Premium stream and hope to see you guys all there here in a couple of minutes' time. You're watching Kart Chasers live coverage of the Stars Championship Series. We'll see you shortly.